Buried alive, Emma woke up to a pitch-black darkness. At first, she had no idea where she was. Then, as she tried to breathe, she felt a suffocating weight pressing down on her chest. In what seemed like an endless void, she tried lifting her hand, and her fingertips brushed against a wooden surface. Out of habit, she reached for her cell phone on or near her, but the sudden realization of how cramped her surroundings were hit her like a punch. She tried to stay calm, but couldn't. She would have never imagined waking up one day in a coffin buried 6 feet under. At first, she thought it was just sleep paralysis, but as more time passed, she understood this was horrifyingly real. Her heartbeat pounded in her ears. Each breath carried less and less air, while panic coursed through her veins like a raging river. Being trapped like this sent her reeling into claustrophobic terror. Desperate, she felt around the coffin's lid, searching for a crack of light or maybe a voice from outside. What happened? Where could I be? She wondered, though even rummaging through her memory turned up no answers. Besides, she'd never go anywhere without her phone. That meant someone must have taken her. But who and why? The uncertainty gnawed away at her. Maybe they thought I was dead and buried me, she thought. Clinging to the hope that someone might be standing near her grave, she screamed at the top of her lungs. But her cry was swallowed up by the layers of soil covering the coffin. Somewhere deep inside, her mind tried to figure a way out of that dark prison. Soon, though, she faced the truth. There was no room to move, and the oxygen was running out fast. It was so surreal that she almost couldn't grasp the fact she was really in a coffin. All she wanted was to get out and take a huge breath of fresh air. She spent what time she had left screaming, crying, and praying. She latched on to all sorts of desperate hopes. Mostly she prayed. She had no idea she was wasting her breath, and that no one but me could hear her prayers. I still hadn't decided whether or not to help. Whether her time would end in that cramped box depended on how long it took me to make up my mind. For now, I'll tell you how Emma ended up in that grave. And if she dies before I've decided, don't feel guilty for keeping me busy. Evolution weeds out the weak one way or another, and we all share that merciless drive deep down. Anyway, today is Sunday. Relax a bit while you read this story. Emma's predicament is on me. Chapter 1, September 15th, 2016, Thursday. I last visited this small town in 1962. Time sure flies. Exactly 54 years ago, an exorcism took place here. Maybe I'll tell you about the horrors of that day some other time. Let's just say for the last 54 years, aside from the usual gossip, adultery, and petty theft, nothing noteworthy had happened to draw me back here. On the morning of September 15th, I found myself once again in this town, drawn into Emma's story. Emma was just your average, clueless high school kid. 15 years old, as annoying as any teenage girl could be. Hanging out with her was mind-numbing. She was a wannabe, always admiring the popular girls, but never fitting in. If I weren't who I am, the devil, I might have burst into tears from sheer boredom. I can't tell you how awful that week was. Turns out Emma had fallen head over heels for Jim, the senior football captain. She spent her entire day, every day, trailing after him between classes. Whenever Jim's new girlfriend, Olivia, showed up, Emma would flee. With a single whisper in Olivia's ear, I could have humiliated Emma on the spot. Yes, I almost went for it, but for the time being, I held my tongue. The terror planned for Sunday kept me motivated. Pathetic Emma and her best friend, Dopey Kelly, spent the whole day talking about ridiculous bands, YA vampire novels, and Emma's undying love for Jim. Whenever they didn't want anyone to catch on, they called Jim Edward Cullen. Enough gossip for today. It's turning my stomach. Chapter 2, September 16th, 2016. Friday. Yesterday's events repeated themselves today. School, Emma, Kelly, and their silly teenage antics. But there was something off about Emma. It was like she was hiding something that ate away at her, but she couldn't bring herself to tell anyone. Naturally, Kelly was clueless. As for Jim, he spent every break with his new girlfriend, Olivia. The moment Emma saw Olivia, she went into full-blown teen drama mode and ran off crying. Still, Emma's obsession both disgusted and impressed me. She was persistent, to say the least. After school, Emma ditched Kelly by making up some excuse and took a different route home. That night, her family waited for her, but she never showed. Panicked, they called the police. Later that same night, the family of Jim's new girlfriend, Olivia, also reported her missing, making everything more complicated. Chapter 3, September 17th, 2016, Saturday. Emma and Olivia vanishing at the same time sparked talk of a serial killer in this quiet town. People who'd been living comfortably here for years rushed to church in fear. At face value, it looked like they were praying for Emma and Olivia. But I knew the truth. Most of them begged God to keep themselves safe. Witnesses said Emma and Olivia were seen arguing in a busy part of town. Once Kelly found out, she went straight to the police and spilled every detail she knew. Suddenly, Jim got dragged into the center of everything. Around town, rumors about the Emma-Jim-Olivia triangle spread like wildfire. Chapter 4, September 18th, 2016, Sunday. That day, a woman's body was found near the cliffs, and the whole town was shaken. Emma's family hoped it would turn out to be Olivia. Olivia's family, on the other hand, silently wished it was Emma. Such is the brutal face of tragedy. It turned out the body really was Olivia. She was found dead, without so much as a scratch on her face. At first glance, it looked like a suicide, so they sent her body to the medical examiner for a thorough investigation. Suspicion fell even harder on Jim, and Emma, still missing, rose to the top of the police's list. Either she was dead too, or she was the prime suspect. At dusk, the police read Olivia's soaked letter. Everything escalated fast after that. The letter directed them to a cemetery outside town. When they dug up a freshly covered grave, they found Emma inside, barely conscious. Her pulse was so faint that if they'd been a few minutes later, she would have died. According to the letter, Olivia had abducted Emma out of jealousy and buried her alive that night. She wrote in plain, brutal words that she'd rather kill herself than face punishment for what she did to that pathetic girl. Turns out Olivia tortured Emma all Friday and Saturday, then buried her alive late Saturday night. By morning, Olivia had jumped off the cliff. Chapter 5. It's Sunday again. I'm usually free on Sundays. Depending on the time and place, people swarm churches, so I get to relax. Or let's say I catch up on my stories. I know there are parts of Emma's tale that still bother you. The evidence is clear. The letter was in Olivia's handwriting. The coroner confirmed her suicide. Emma survived with serious injuries, and everything points to innocent victim versus monstrous killer. But if you still find Emma unsettling, you're onto something. She really was a psychopath, and there are thousands more just like her roaming around in your daily life. I suppose I should explain, because the truth is, Emma was a bona fide psychopath. There are countless others among you too. On the night of September 15, 2016, the devil, yours truly, appeared in Emma's dream. The deceiver, the liar, the embodiment of evil. Emma and I struck a deal. She was crystal clear on what she wanted and how she wanted it done. I, as her ally, followed every word. The plan was to make her look like the victim, and Olivia, the monster. But Emma wouldn't know every twist in the script. During these events, she genuinely believed she was just a helpless victim, dragged through pain and horror, not knowing where it would all end. She repeatedly questioned whether the demon inside Olivia was real or just in her head. But trust me, the demon who possessed Olivia played the part flawlessly. No matter what, when Emma crawled out of that grave, she knew the devil was real, and so was our pact. Just as I'd promised, she married Jim right after high school. Neither of them went on to college, and they both died in the same town they were born in. Emma faithfully carried out her part of the deal until menopause. Without a second thought, she slaughtered all 6 of her newborn children, dedicating them to the devil as soon as they drew their first breath. Nothing could stand in the way of Emma's sick, obsessive love. When Jim died, by suicide as well, Emma ended her own life shortly thereafter. But rest assured, there is divine justice in hell, dear reader. Emma now slumbers in my thorny lap, bathed in blood. As you bask in the peace of your Sunday, think twice about where your prayers really end up. As for me, until I make my decision, some of you might wake up in a coffin, just like Emma. She's gone from our story now, but I'm still here. Farewell. For now.